we're going to cover a pretty broad range of opportunities for study, for research, for teaching, for internships. And so some may be highly relevant to you and some may be pretty irrelevant. So just bear with us as we work through all the different opportunities. And then perhaps during the Q&A, you can zero in on those specific opportunities that seem relevant or of interest to you. We will be talking to a large degree about opportunities for once you graduate, but there will also be some for that you can consider while you're still an undergraduate here at Emory. Okay, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to the DAAD lector, Professor Dr. Vogt, who is in his second year here at Emory, and will tell you more about the organization that sponsors him and allows him to come here at Emory, DAAD. So, Frank, all yours.
Thank you, Professor Maxim, for this introduction. So I will tell you something about the organization called DAAD, so Deutscher Akademischer Austauschdienst, German Academic Exchange Service. I'll quickly share my screen here so that you can see. So this is an organization that actually provides funding, stipends, scholarships, but also, like my position as a DAAD lecturer at the Department of German Studies is a cooperation with the DAAD. So it has it's an organization that supports academic exchange on a very broad range. So it's a national agency basically for international academic cooperation exchange, including students on all stages of their career that can be funded and supported by these organizations. It's at the same time an information and counseling organization. So if you have any questions concerning studying and research in Germany, you can always write an email to the bureau in New York. I will later give the address. You can also write an email to me. And as you can see by the numbers here, it has a quite huge annual budget. So there's really lots of stipends and funding opportunities. And experience shows that there are more students who would like to come to the US. At the moment, it is not possible, but it is possible at the moment for US students to go to Germany. So that being said, I want to say that it is not too difficult, actually, if you would like to get and support a scholarship stipend for your research or study or intern stay in Germany. It is not that difficult. So I could say something about why you could study in Germany, but I think you already have an idea about the country, why it could be interesting to study in Germany. One reason, of course, which is interesting for students, that there are very low or almost no tuition or fees. I think there's only one exception, one Bundesland, so one state in the southwest, Baden-Württemberg, I think charges international students with 2,500 euro per semester, I think, but this is really it. So apart from that, fees vary from university to university, but they are like between 200 and maybe 400 euro. So this is very, very low compared to other countries, especially to the US. If you are in Germany, of course, you are already in the middle, in the heart of Europe, so it's a nice place to be there. Also, if you want to have quick access to other cultures just around the country. And it is also interesting to be there because traveling in Germany or in Europe is, I would say, a bit easier than in the US. You do not necessarily need a car. You can use trains, which has a good infrastructure for trains and good opportunities and cheap tickets, actually, to go very quickly overnight from Berlin to Paris or Madrid. I want to, before I get a bit more, come to the different opportunities, I want just to give two different concepts of universities or higher education institutions that you should know. So there are two types basically of universities in Germany. So one you could call the standard research universities, offering undergraduate, graduate degrees, professional and doctoral programs. And then you will read names called or universities who have this word Fachhochschule in their name. So FH is the abbreviation. And these are universities who have a more practice-oriented approach. So they offer bachelor's and master's degree and often combine internships and practice and theory on a much larger scale. And then you also have research institutions which can be dependent from universities. Sometimes they are affiliated with university, and there are four very big networks actually of institutes: Max Planck, Helmholtz Research Centers, the Fraunhofer Institutes, and Leibniz Associations. This PowerPoint, of course, we will upload as a PDF file, so you can then browse through it when you download it. But I just want to give a point at some interesting web pages. So especially consider the last two links which are interesting: study in Germany, research in Germany. So if you just want to get an insight or an overview of different programs and you're not really sure what to choose, or just want to get an overview of what's going on and what could be an option for you, where to study or where to intern. So this might be very interesting pages. Basically, you will find databases on this pages, and you can browse just through. Another link which is interesting is this ranking page. So if you are interested in a good university, you want to be sure that the quality of the education and the professors is the way you want to have, then you can check this ranking. Rankings have their specificities. Sometimes they're reliable, sometimes really not. It also depends, of course, on the program you want to choose, but maybe this link might give you a good first hint. Okay, so then I quickly jump to the first section, study in Germany. So one of the very famous programs by the DAAD is the so-called summer course grants. So this is, as the name says, a funding opportunity for summer courses, which do not necessarily have to be language courses. So summer courses can have all different kinds of FOCI and normally last 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes longer. And the language requirement for these courses are 1 to 2 years at a minimum. And as you can see, so there can be focus on literary, cultural, political, and economic aspects. So it really depends on your field of study, on your interest, which you would like to choose. And how it works is you can just use this page, Summer Schools DE, and choose from a very broad variety of different courses. So you select the field of your study, and then it shows you where, at which institutions offer what kind of course. If you have if you're interested in some of these, so you can fill out a form on the DAAD webpage or the DAAD portal and apply by indicating 3 summer courses that you might be interested in, and then just hand in this form with the reference and brief motivation letter by December 1st. as for the deadlines, keep in mind that the deadlines are all in Middle European time. So you have to be aware that there's a time difference, of course. And the best thing is you just do it a week before, so that just in case your reference is not there, so you can hand it in then on time. You see by the so the scholarship is 950 euro, which I think is about $1,100. But it includes health insurance and travel allowance. So this is money that in Germany, it depends really in which city you are, but that can be already the broad amount of money that you would need to make a living in Germany. If you are a student, say you would live maybe in a room, flat sharing community, then you could easily find a room for 400 euro in a German city. And since your health insurance is covered, so if you're an economical person, that might be enough, at least for 3 or 4 weeks. The next, sorry, this is the next stipend or scholarship I want to present is the study scholarship for graduates. So assuming that you want to pursue a master's degree in Germany, the DAAD offers you, so to speak, a fully funded master's degree for up to 2 years. And it is also interesting. So I think the majority of you do speak and write German, but actually the language requirement is really dependent on the program. So if the program, for instance, is in English, then you would not need to prove your German skills. And if you are in the final year of your undergraduate, so senior, you may already apply. So the scholarship comes with 850 euro monthly, so around $1,000 health and liability insurance, and you also get a travel stipend, which might cover the broad amount of your travel expenses. And here again is this webpage that I already recommended you, so you can browse on this web page and check out for the different programs. And then once you know what would be interesting or what would be interesting for you, you can apply by early November this year. And it is clear that you would apply for the next year, and it is clear also for the DAAD that the university or the program might not have accepted you, but this is so that's just the normal structure. So it is not a problem that if you are not already accepted, you can still or already apply for this scholarship. This similar scholarship I just want to mention. So if you're studying fine arts, design, visual communication, film, music, choreography, or architecture, you can also have this kind or similar kind of scholarship for artists and musicians, how it's called, even though you see that the range of fields is broader than arts and musicians in the stricter sense. So this again offers you support for 1 or 2 years of study. So for a master's degree, postgraduate degree, and comes with the same support. So 850 euro monthly, health, liability insurance, travel stipend. But here the deadlines are different. Okay, then I go on with an internship, which is quite popular, the so-called EMGP Bundestag Internship, which gives you the opportunity to basically shadow a member of parliament for 2 months. So this is an internship that you can pursue if you're an undergraduate in your 3rd and 4th year, or graduate student. And here too, it is not, so it is of course necessary that you prove your German skills, otherwise it wouldn't make sense to have this internship. But it can be, of course, different interests that lead you to this internship. So you might just prove that you are fluent in German writing and speaking, and it comes with a monthly salary of 1,800 euro from the German Bundestag. And the DAAD in this internship opportunity also offers help with health insurance and housing. If you are interested in that, so it's basically too late because the deadline is today, but you want to keep it in mind maybe for next year, so in case you're interested in that internship. So I would maybe make a short break here and just ask if you have any questions, because then I would come to the next question, which is more research and internships in Germany. Okay, that does not seem to be. Oh, there is a question. Madeline Stout.
Yeah, hello. I'm very interested in potentially doing the Bundestag internship next year or my senior year. What time of year does that usually happen? So it says for 2 months, which 2 months usually?
I would say, so I have to admit that I don't really know if there's a certain limit or range of time. It is for sure not during the summer, because normally during the summer there is a pause for the Bundestag in July and August. But I would say apart from that, it should be flexible. I don't know, Professor Maxim, do you have a notion of the time frame?
Yeah, my experience has been actually, it does unfortunately conflict with the normal American academic semester schedule. And so this usually tends to be an internship. I need to double check on the website, but that usually is an internship that you might want to look for after graduation, or if you have a semester off, because like Dr. Folk said, it's typically not in the summer. So that is one issue with these parliamentary internships, is they typically conflict with the American academic schedule, unfortunately. So students have had to do them after graduation. Yeah. Yeah, and just while if I can, just a couple of follow-ups from some of the slides that you just saw. Just realize, although there are rankings of universities, it's a very different university culture in Germany. And so, whereas everyone waits with bated breath in this country for the US News rankings and hoping that Emory cracks the top 20, that type of, it's getting more attention, but it's a very different kind of history and culture associated with higher learning, where there's been a strong egalitarian effort in German higher ed to make sure that the universities are relatively equivalent in terms of their offerings. Obviously, some universities develop strengths in certain areas based on the personnel they have. But I think it's fair to say that if you're looking at a federally funded university or state-funded university, it's going to be a very solid institution. Okay, so rankings for sure, but do realize that it's fair to say there isn't really a Harvard or a Princeton of Germany. Okay, things like that. It's they're all very, very strong, and obviously some programs are better than others at different places, based again on the people they happen to hire. But you're welcome to look at the rankings, but realize it's a very different culture over there for that. Another thing too is I'll come back to that search portal that allows you to find programs in Germany. That's also on our website, which is what I'm going to be focusing on. So if you missed that link, I'll come back to it and show you how you can find it on the German Studies website. And also realize that the summer course grant, which is highly attractive and a good way to get to Germany and learn some German, the one, if you're looking to get Emory credit for though, that's a little trickier, okay? As you may know, to get Emory credit, you have to pay for Emory credit, right? It doesn't come for free. And so those day summer courses are great opportunities, but they typically would be, you would do those expecting not to get Emory credit. Okay, it could advance your placement in the German program, for example. So we can talk about that, but we can't give you credit for those courses. Okay, so just be aware of that. And lastly, if it wasn't clear about the grants to support graduate study, that grant really is to support your room and board, basically, because with no tuition, you don't need a stipend for the tuition. And so it really becomes a totally free ride. There's no tuition, and DAAD covers all the other expenses. And so it really becomes an all expense paid graduate degree, okay, which is highly, highly difficult to achieve in this country, right? At the master's level, yeah? PhDs are typically supported, but there are very few MA programs that give a full ride to students, okay? They don't tell you this, but MAs are often seen as revenue generators in the US for their institutions, and PhDs less so. So if you're looking, if finances are an issue, definitely consider these graduate programs in Germany, where, as Dr. Folk said, many of them are offered these days in English as well. Okay, I'll stop and turn it back to more day programs.
Okay, so then I go on. So I quickly, share my screen here. So with opportunities for research and internships, and so there are at least two I want to introduce to you. So the first one is the DAAD research grant. So this is an opportunity. So say you're looking for funding and you already know the research lab where you want to go, the university or the institution. So your research trip or the way you want to research is basically figured out. Then this is really the funding and the scholarship that you should consider. So it's available to students who have a bachelor's degree or a master PhD degree while you are a student, and then this is part of your master's or thesis or dissertation. There are two different types of this research grant. So one short-term, one long-term. So 1 to 6 months, 7 to 10 months. And so you see the conditions are similar than in the other scholarships that I already introduced. And there are two different deadlines. So one, November 5th, so which is in 6 weeks, a bit more than 6 weeks for short and long term, and then one for short term only, May 1st. Okay, so then I go quickly to the next one. So this is the German Studies Research Grant for undergraduate and master's or PhD level. This is designed for people and students who are in the field of German studies. So there's a specific research grant funding for that, which is short term, so 1 to 2 months in Germany, and it's open to third or fourth years. So students in their third or fourth year majoring or minoring in German studies. And this is how it works, is that you approach the chair of your department, so Professor Schaumann, who is present today. So don't wait that somebody approaches you, approach your department chair. And this sounds actually more daunting than it actually is, because once you talked to Professor Schaumann, you explained and discussed your project that you want to pursue in Germany. She will also write a recommendation and also maybe helps you a bit with writing so a good research plan that will be part of the application. The next program that I would present is the RISE program. But actually, before I do that, I would ask you if someone's interested actually in research internships in science and engineering, because if this is not the case, it wouldn't make really sense to introduce it now.
I see one thumbs up, Dr. Folk. So perhaps
Okay.
there is interest in the RISE program.
Okay. So the RISE program is a my screen sharing just on the. So the RISE program is a very popular program that concentrates on science and engineering. It's 10 to 12 weeks summer scholarship basically for an internship. And how it works is there is an online database and an online database matching process. So this database opens on November 1st. And since you see the deadline for the application is December 15th, so you have 6 weeks to browse through the database and identify interesting internships in your area of research or study. You can apply for up to 3 internships at a time. So if you are, you see by the you see with the pictures here that they're definitely, you do not necessarily have to work in the lab. You can also work with SEALs. So it's very open and depends on the field of your study. As for requirements, you have to be enrolled as a full-time student in your field, whether it's biology, chemistry, physics, earth sciences, or engineering, or a closely related field. You have to be an undergraduate who will have completed at least 2 years of a degree by the time of the placement. And this is, I think, then there's another RISE program. So if you're interested, maybe I share you. So there's another program called RISE Professional. So this is an internship for 10 weeks up to 3 months. And this is then for master's and PhD students in the various fields. And you can see the different companies that are basically on the other side of the line in the database and are looking for interested students. I just quickly show you some to finish some addresses. So if you want to get in touch with the DAAD, there are actually 2 ways. So the DAAD regional office in New York. Actually, I'm pretty sure that this changed to DE. Meanwhile, and here too, I'm sorry. So the DAAD regional office in New York, traveling is difficult in these times, but you can just write an email, talk to them on the phone, ask them to have a Zoom call or whatever. And there's a small DAAD information center in San Francisco that will also be happy to assist you. So the person, a colleague there, Honey Geist, was definitely happy to help you. So and I also want to mention, I shared a brochure in the chat, the PDF file, which also explains the different funding opportunities on all levels. So research, study, intern in Germany that I just went through very quickly.
Okay, great. Yeah. Any follow-up questions? I'm going to actually go over some of these again because I'll be showing you our website, so you'll get a chance to see them for a second time. But yeah, any questions while we're here with DAAD? I just can't praise this organization enough from a very personal perspective. Since I started studying German as a 10th grader in high school, they supported me 5 times in my career. As an undergraduate twice, as a graduate student twice, and as a faculty member once. And so, in other words, they like you to keep coming back, unlike other organizations that typically, like Fulbright, you can only get a Fulbright, I think, once in your career. But DAAD likes to see people returning, and they're happy to. And actually, there are special programs for DAAD alumni. It's a really special organization that, as you can see, has a wide range of opportunities to try and get you back to Germany. And just to emphasize, this is just Germany, okay? So there's not really an equivalent organization in Austria or Switzerland. So Germany really has the bucks, or is willing to spend the bucks on this kind of program. And Austria and Switzerland don't quite have those resources.
And just to add, they have supported me too. And what I really love about them too, if you contact them, you immediately can talk to a person actually, if you call their office as somebody really knowledgeable. So I encourage you to do that. And we've had several students who were able to get various fellowships from the DAAD. So we feel like we have a really good track record as well. So please do not hesitate to apply.
And if you're still a little fuzzy about which one is for you, that's what we're here for. So feel free to say, I heard these different programs. This is what I'm interested in doing. This is what I'm studying. This is where I want to go. Then we can try and sort out the one that maybe fits best your program, okay, or interest or your timeline. Okay, so just to keep an eye on time, I don't want to insult your intelligence, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you our website. This because we've spent a fair amount of time trying to organize our website. I don't think, it's not to say that I don't think you can read a website, but I just want to point you to it and highlight how we've organized it. So I hope you can help find some of the programs that maybe suit you. So I'm going to share my screen now and take you to the German Studies website, which is simply german.emory.edu. And if you go to undergraduate here and then scroll down to abroad, here we've done, I think, a pretty good job at trying to outline all the different opportunities that we can think of for ways to get to the German-speaking world. We begin with our wonderful summer program in Vienna. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about that right now because we'll have a special info session on this program specifically later in the semester, so look for that if you're interested. We do very much hope to offer it this coming summer 2022, after having to cancel the past 2 summers. We also have very generous funding. Money that's been sitting, growing, stewing, ready to be spent on students. So if finances are a concern, realize that the department has got both internal and external funding to help offset a significant amount of the cost for this program. Semester study abroad, perhaps you know this week, OISP, the Office of International Summer Programs, is offering or hosting a bunch of virtual and in-person events to promote semester study abroad. So look for those. Well, I'm going to focus though here on this last section, internships and fellowships. And we divided into 2 sections, those that are relevant for those while you're still an undergraduate and those that are relevant for you as you're looking to graduate. So I'm just going to go through these relatively quickly, hoping that you can go back and look at them. And what we've done here is divided into different categories. So as an undergraduate, do you want to research? Do you want an internship? Do you want to study? And you can see the different opportunities. And you can already see that DAAD appears many times. Okay, so here's the research grant that Dr. Folk talked about. This supports you for 1 or 2 months when you're maybe studying overseas for a semester. But we also have some internal programs. So the Hall Institute offers a nice program largely oriented towards seniors looking to get some funding to support their honors thesis. If you need to get to the German-speaking world to collect data, to spend time in archive, to do ethnographic work, what have you, whatever your thesis is doing, this is a wonderful grant for doing that. They're also within Emory, they have their entire undergraduate research program. There are additional funding as well. So do be aware that Emory offers some nice funding itself, okay? And as you might imagine, the competition is a little less, the applicant pool is a little less. Here's the DAAD I mentioned. Think Swiss would be a Swiss-related program for doing research. The only thing here is you do need to have a contact in Switzerland that would help basically be your mentor. If that's an initial hurdle that you feel is too overwhelming, do come and talk to us and we can try and see if we can hook you up with someone in Switzerland who maybe could serve as a mentor for your research project. In terms of internships, again, I won't go through all of these. I think you can click on these as easily. Here's that day 1 in Parliament. Professor Schaumann posted some information in the chat as to the timing of that. Madeline, if you saw that. Here's the RISE program, highly popular, also competitive because, as Dr. Folk said, German is not required, so the applicant pool is that much larger. But obviously a very attractive program, particularly for those students in the STEM fields. It gives you a lab experience overseas. It's hard to beat that combination. 2 summer internship programs I did want to mention though. This one here is started at Emory with 5 other Atlanta-based institutions. It's now grown, expanded up the East Coast. but this is an internship program, a paid 3-month summer program. It was virtual last summer. We don't know exactly the status of it this coming summer. Information is forthcoming. If you're taking a German class, if you're on the German listserv, you'll definitely get information those ways. We want to make sure that students are aware of this. It's a really nice program. Do realize that the firms that participate in this are in the for-profit world. And so it does skew towards students in the B school and in STEM fields, I have to say that. So those in the humanities have a harder time getting matched with the firms looking for interns in the summer program, okay? And that's just it's a German labor law that you can't get an internship in Germany unless it's in the field that you're majoring in. Yeah, that's on your transcript as your major. And that has to do with how the German authorities can secure work permits for you. So that does, even if you say, I'm amazing at marketing, but I'm studying art history, yeah, your internship has to be in art history. It can't be in marketing, okay? The other internship program that actually is also truly in-house. This is an Emory-based internship program. 8-week internship program, and there is a program in Berlin, Germany. I do believe for the large part that those internships would be in English, but it would be in the German-speaking world. And there is a credit associated with this internship, unlike the GAE internship program, because you do take a 4-credit Emory online course. Okay, as you can see, this one is a bit pricier because it includes both Emory tuition and a hefty program fee. So there is a substantial cost involved. Whereas the GAE, this one is fully paid, a minimal application fee, and the main cost to you would be your flight over there. Okay, these others I'll let you explore on your own, but the Cultural Vistas is a long-standing institution that offers two interesting internship programs. We haven't had students apply to those in recent years, but it doesn't mean that they're not worthwhile in pursuing. So do take a look at those. And in terms of study, here's that summer course grant that Dr. Folk mentioned from DAAD. If you're a member of the German Honor Society, realize that they've got some nice scholarships to support study abroad. This is a funding source to look at, okay? It's not a program per se, it's simply a funding source. And lastly, Germany Close Up is an interesting program supported by the German federal government, looking to get Jewish North American students, young professionals to Germany. Largely, most of the costs are covered. And so an interesting program that might be, curious to some of you. So these are programs for undergrads. And then if we shift to postgraduates, so these would be if you're a current senior or even a junior looking ahead. Again, we divide this up by research, internships, pursuing a graduate degree, teaching English, and then lastly, we have these so-called combo programs, which I'll get to in a second. So if you wanted to research, okay, this would be largely, you would have a project in mind that you feel you would need roughly a year to complete, 2 semesters, an academic year. You also would have ideally a mentor in the German-speaking world who has signed on his or her letterhead saying that they are willing to support you as the mentor. Okay, so this would be for you to carry out independent research in the German-speaking world. Okay, Fulbright is in any one of the German-speaking countries. DAAD, any DAAD has to be Germany. Obviously, the Berlin one is in Berlin, and Think Swiss would be in Switzerland. Okay, as far as internships, here again, you see some repetition. Here's your Bundestag internship again. This International Parliament stipendium is very similar to the Bundestag. It's a little longer, but it also has the conflicting schedule. So this is one you'd have to apply for or expect to do after graduation, okay? Because it does conflict with the American academic calendar. But if you're interested in political science, these first 2, I think, would be really, really nice ones to pursue. Here's Cultural Vistas again. And then I do have to put a plug in for the BUFTI, okay? So this is a really interesting program. When Germany had a mandatory draft for all German men, you could become a conscientious objector, but you still had to serve, and you served in what was known as the Zivildienst. So this was in the social services. When they did away with the draft, however, they still had these positions to be filled, so they created a whole separate organization, this Bundesfreiwilligendienst, and it places people in these positions, and many of these kind of social service sectors And so I would if you're interested in this is kind of a nice fallback because it's rolling admissions. So let's say it's senior year, you don't know what you're doing after graduation. Go on to this website. It's an amazing website. You can choose a particular sector you want to pursue, what city you want to be in, and then up comes all the open positions, okay? And so as you can see, it's from 12 to 18 months. You get some pocket money, room and board is covered, and even in some cases, you even get Berufsbekleidung. You even get the clothing that you need for the position. So definitely keep this in mind as a kind of maybe a backup, or if you're looking for a true immersion experience, I can't imagine one that's more immersive in the language and culture than this one right here. So, and if you want to pursue a graduate degree, here are the different search engines. Here's the one to Germany that you saw on Dr. Folk's slide, and here are ones for Austria and Switzerland. Again, the tuition is pretty comparable on all three countries. That is, if you study at a state-supported institution. There are private institutions which have a higher tuition, but the majority of institutions are state-supported and therefore a much more affordable graduate program that you find in this country. If you'd like to try and teach English after graduation, there are two programs. Emory has been very successful in placing students in either one of these. One is through Fulbright to Germany, and one is very comparable. It's almost the identical program. It just doesn't carry the Fulbright name. This would be to Austria. And here you are, as the title indicates, you would serve as an assistant, a teaching assistant to a mainstream English teacher, and you're kind of the cultural ambassador for American culture for that year. In typically high school, sometimes it could be a middle school, sometimes it could be a professional school, but they're usually high schools. And like I said, we've had a really good track record of placing students, and so we've got a wide network of alums who are happy to talk to you about this experience, either in Germany or Switzerland. And this is typically for 1 year, but it can be renewed for a second year. And lastly, and this is where I'll stop, are these really interesting combo programs. So when I say combo, so for example, the Congress-Bundestag Youth Exchange, as you can see, you get three things. You get an intensive language program in the summer, you get a semester of study at university, and a semester internship. Okay, so kind of the best of all worlds in a way. Your German gets better, you get to experience university life, and you get an internship, all supported by two reputable institutions, or at least they used to be reputable, Congress and Bundestag, right? Okay, I can only speak of the US side of things here. Knowledge of German is strongly preferred, but not required. This applicant pool is pretty large and it's a pretty competitive program. But for you seniors in particular, might want to give this serious consideration if you're looking for an overseas experience next year. The Fulbright has two really interesting combination awards. One combines the teaching with a research project. So you would teach roughly 20 hours a week in a high school. You'd be the teaching assistant, and you would be able to carry out a research project, an independent research project. So kind of a nice combination of that practical experience in the classroom and then a research project, which could be tied to that teaching, but it could be also totally unrelated, yeah? And the other combo program is you do the teaching and you don't do research, you do community service, a community-based project, okay? And so these two programs are relatively new. There aren't many of them, but they're also not as well known. So the chances of getting those, I think, are a little better right now. So two really interesting Fulbright programs that carry the Fulbright label as well. And so one we definitely encourage you if you're looking to maybe kind of do this combination of some teaching and either research or community-based service. And because of our Vienna program, we've got pretty good connections in Austria. And so we're happy to try and hook you up with people to mentor you for research or to mentor you for community service projects. So that usually is not a problem. And one quick thing about Fulbright, any award that has the word Fulbright on it, there is an initial internal Emory application process. So that means the application deadline you see on the website, the official Fulbright Washington website, go back a month or two to find the Emory internal deadline, because Emory holds interviews first here, then they make a recommendation and forward your dossier on to Fulbright Washington, where then it goes from there. So I just realized that there's an earlier start or an earlier deadline for Fulbright stuff, but it's just Fulbright. All the other applications, you typically work directly with the provider, okay? So yeah, I'll stop there. And again, the idea here was simply to make you aware of our website and efforts we've done to try and create a pretty extensive clearinghouse of, we think, all of the opportunities that are out there, okay? And I always boast this, so I'll do it one more time, is that I think you're really fortunate to be a student of German, because I don't think there are too many other languages you can study that have this many opportunities to get overseas. And so as I hope you saw tonight, there's really a wide range of opportunities. If you're a little overwhelmed and daunted by these opportunities, then take a breather, sort through the website, and then come talk to us. We're more than happy to discuss the possibilities, and even think sometimes about stringing them together. So you maybe do, maybe you go to the Vienna program and you get intrigued by something that caught your eye in Austria and Vienna. You then come back to Emory, and then you want to pursue that as an honors thesis, okay? And so then you apply for Halle Institute funding to go back to Vienna the summer before your senior year to collect data for your honors thesis. And then you get so energized by that project, you then apply for a Fulbright grant to follow up on that project for an entire year after graduation. So all of a sudden, 3 programs are strung together, and you've got a pretty impressive dossier all of a sudden of expertise in this one field, which sets you up for graduate school, professional work, what have you. So don't just think of these as kind of one-time events, but sometimes think that of combining them over the course of your studies can be a really effective way of pursuing those. And one final thing, and then I promise I'll be quiet, is what we haven't done necessarily is organize these by discipline. And so maybe you say, hey, I'm pre-med, or I'm pre-health, or pre-business, or pre-law, or what have you. We're also happy to talk to you about which are the best programs to suit that particular discipline. Because I do think, and this is another boast I make, is I defy you to find a course of study at Emory that can't be combined with some opportunity in the German-speaking world. Okay, so there's something for everybody. We just have to find it for you. Okay, so yeah, maybe we'll stop here. We went a little over, so thanks for your patience and attention. If you have any questions at all about any of the programs, or maybe ones you heard of that we haven't mentioned, but like I said, we did try to do a pretty comprehensive effort of including everything that we are aware of. So yeah.